Welcome back. If you watched my last review video, you probably know what this video is about. I got something in the mail that not a lot of people seem to be interested in. The worker Cheetah. So, somebody in my comment section asked if I would go into detail and do a review of this particular blaster. So I figured, let's get into it. Why not? It's cheap enough. So, here it is. It does come with some rival balls, off-branded ones, which aren't really the best. And then it also comes with this handy little instruction guide. On top of that, I also got this. Can't just get the Cheetah without also getting the upgrades. And if you couldn't tell, I got this from AK Blaster Mods, and of course I've already gotten into it a little bit. In the upgrade kit, you also get the half-dart conversion, the 2 ramrods, as well as the worker spring, which is also sold separately. And people don't seem to be talking about this at all. I think there's one video currently on YouTube about it. So I just figured, you know what? It's worth kind of going over it. So the blaster is pretty straightforward. It's a front-loaded blaster. Simply take your rival round and just seat it all the way down in the barrel. Pull back the priming bar and fire it. Now that ball's probably lost forever. We're going to check some of the stock performances that we can get for rival rounds, both with the spring that came with, and then we're going to open it up and check it out with the upgrade spring and see how our numbers change, first with the rival rounds. Then we're going to come in and we're going to swap it out to shoot half lengths, and we're going to then see what we can get both with the stock spring and then yet again with the upgrade spring. Some other little features that you have on this, there is what appears to be dart storage, similar to like what you would see on recons or retaliators with a single dart storage. It does have 2 openings for darts, but they are for full length only. I would not shove a half length in there. It will get stuck in the handle, so not worth it there. There is storage on the front of the blaster for the little bitty ramrods that you get. It simply pushes into there, and there is a little detent pin that is holding it in place so it doesn't want to fall out of the blaster, which is nice. The one thing that I have noticed before we actually install it, we'll go over it right now, you'll notice there are 2 different sized rods. When this kit is installed, the intent for it is that the barrel should be installed, and then you will push the half dart into the front, full half or full length, and then you'll take your ramrod and just shove it down to the base and fire the blaster. What I can't seem to figure out is why there are 2. If anybody can answer that for me, I would really appreciate it, just because, more for knowledge sake, because the full length one, the longer one here, you'll need for half lengths to actually get them to seat, but the shorter one, it's too short for full lengths. I don't get this really. I don't understand what this is for, and it's not really set up. I mean, even if you're wanting to shotgun this with, you know, more than 1 round inside of it, you could still just use the one. So I don't know. And when you go to actually install this, this does stick out quite far from the blaster. But once the barrel is installed, obviously it's not going to be sticking out all on its own. You're not going to hit it and break it by chance, because it will have the aluminum barrel actually in the way to prevent that from happening. Now that we've gone over the initial parts, both with the blaster, the half dart kit, and the spring, each one of these are sold separately. Altogether, I mean, it's really not that expensive. It's, you know, not that much over $20. Obviously, you do want to have to worry about shipping costs and time that it is going to take to come from either AK Blaster mods or from Worker themselves. I usually order from AK Blaster mods because I tend to notice they have a little bit better pricing. I think that's just because of the fact that Worker sells through Etsy, and Etsy takes a very large cut, so they have to increase their price with that service, unfortunately. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and get some stock chronograph numbers. I'm going to go ahead and put 5 rounds through it with the stock spring that it comes with. And then, like I said, we'll come back in, swap out the spring, and get our next 5 rounds with that spring as well. So let's head out to the garage and get some numbers. All right, so the numbers seem to start to trail off there at the very end. I think it has to do with the rounds that I was using. They are Nerf branded rounds, but I grabbed some different ones, the ones that are half yellow, half black. I ran 5 more shots. If I were to actually go through them, it was 101, 102, 103, 105, and 112. So now we're going to have to change out to the upgrade spring, and we'll see what kind of performance numbers we get. So this is going to be a quick installation. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, all screws have been loosened. All you have to do is split the shell. Turn it off to the side. We will pull out the plunger tube and spring. There is a little bit of pre-compression, so just make sure you don't let the spring from both the catch and the plunger tube fly out. Remove the plunger rod and plunger. There is a screw that actually removes the head. We'll take that out. Okay, so this is actually going to be my second take at this. I'm going to try to keep my cool because as a consumer who had to actually purchase this kit, this blaster and everything with my own money, it's hard for me not to get a little bit heated about this. While trying to do the spring replacement, the screw that was holding the plunger head on froze. It was seized in the plastic. I spent a very long time trying to get this out. And I used a Phillips head screwdriver. I used a square drive and eventually used a flat head. Every one of them ripped out the center of the screw. I could not break this thing loose from the plastic. I was holding this with a pair of channel locks, trying to make sure that I wasn't going to mar or crack it. There is still a little bit of, marring on it. I did use a piece of thin cardboard to try to help prevent that as well, but it still has a little bit. I eventually was able to get it out with a pair of pliers by clenching on this as hard as I could to cut into the sides of the screw to be able to finally twist it off and break it loose, which created metal shards everywhere. When I finally looked into the inner threads here, there were bits of metal that were actually in there. So that means that parts of the screw, whether it be the threads or the coating of, the metal coating that's on it, came out. And I have a small picture here of hook that I use that actually pulled all the metal shavings out from the inner threads. So what does this mean for you? Well, as of right now, the review is basically over. I cannot recommend this blaster to anyone that wants to upgrade it. If you want a stock blaster that shoots rival rounds at 100 to 110 FPS, buy a Knockout. Put an upgrade spring in it. There's more to it, in all honesty. It's even cheaper. If you want a blaster that is a single shot for half dart kits, buy a Night Finder or a Fire Strike. Don't waste your time. I hate kind of being so negative sounding, but this is infuriating because I don't have a usable blaster at this point. The screw that Worker decided to use is such an odd screw. It is so large and is such a coarse thread. I spent 2 hours on McMaster-Carr and Amazon trying to find a replacement, and I can't find one. I don't know what this is. So this blaster is useless to me as of right now. Everything in this is useless. What makes me even more infuriated about this is that they are about to release a new magazine-fed version of this blaster. Everybody is getting very interested and actually is getting a lot of hype. If you are looking at getting that blaster, be warned that this may be a problem if you want to replace the springs on it. And you try to do what's clearly shown in the instructions. I cannot suggest that because clearly if the screw seizes in here, you have a potential of either damaging your priming bar or having to destroy the screw to get it off. I also cannot suggest unthreading the spring because we all know clear plastic does not do very well with stress fractures and marring and things of that nature. The clear plastics tend to break and shatter a little bit easier, unfortunately. So, could I have done anything differently? While I should have probably used the pliers first, this is what you're supposed to do, as stated, yet again, in the installation guide that is included with the blaster. I did not foresee this screw being seized to that extent. I think that's a bit of an unfortunate thing. I have reached out to AK Blaster Mod, since they were the ones that I received this blaster and kits from, and asked at least for the size of screw. If I can get a replacement screw myself, or if they can send me one, whatever the case is, then this blaster can live again. But until that point, this is just scrap. And that's unfortunate. I want people to understand that if you decide to do this, just be aware that if you want to replace the springs, you may be in for a little bit of a fight trying to get the plunger head off. And the same goes for the new blaster that's coming out. Be warned, this may be very much a problem that you have to deal with. Is this blaster right for you? Yet again, I've listed other blasters that are easy to get, they're cheaper, and they are just as capable. I cannot recommend this as of right now until either Worker comes up with a new solution to this particular problem, either sending a spare with the blaster or doing a little bit more quality checks to make sure that these aren't seized in the blasters before they send them out. Either way, sorry it couldn't have been a little bit further. I wish I could have done a little bit more testing before we got to this point. I wanted to test the new spring with rival balls and then eventually get to the half dart and the full length dart conversion kit, but you know, it is what it is. Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. If you have any comments or if Worker for some reason sees this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know if you know or can find out what this screw is. Yet again, leave it down below. Let me know what it is, because I really would like to go a little bit further with this. I see potential with this if we could just get beyond this one point of failure. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in the next one.
Hey, if you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and come check me out over on Twitch to keep up to date on my current mods I'm working on. I hope to see you there sometime.